Today's actually kind of a special stream. It's I hit a milestone, at least in personally a milestone. I started up this channel quite some time ago, years ago, with the intent. Hey, Pavitra, good to see you. Thank you for popping in. And various reasons, life, COVID, all kinds of things kind of happened that changed my plans. And I kind of put it on hold for a little while. And I made the decision recently that the time was right and to start it back up and to continue with this vision that I have to create this community and to educate and to connect people. And, together we all kind of grow. And I'm happy to say in the period of time that I've started back up now, I hit 200 subscribers. That's a big deal to me. Because it means that what I'm doing is working, and that it's and that there's an impact, and that's what I want to do here. If it is not an impact, I can be very happy continuing with my personal clients and building that up and continuing to work with that. Something I've been familiar with doing for a very long time, decades and decades. So, but I thought, maybe it's time to do this. So, 200. I think that's just awesome. In the meantime, Pavitra, this is for you. Just real quickly, I'm going to pull a random card, just quickly, just for fun, and see what we get. You get the Fool. The Fool. Okay. Now the deck we're looking at today is the this particular one that I just pulled a card from, is the Surrealist Tarot. And so you'll see that the artwork is very unique compared to the standard kind of symbolism we're used to, right? And that's why I think it's going to be a fun deck to play with tonight. The back's kind of pretty too, but and what the artist did here is he kind of mashed up the difference between various surrealist artists and the symbolism of the card, and then his own interpretation of both of those. And what you're left with is this sort of beautiful representation of the symbolism of tarot in a very deep way, from the mind of a very creative and skilled artist. So that's just a quick little message for you. The Fool is the first card of the tarot. It's the last card of the tarot. It's the beginning and the end. It is ultimately the nothing from which everything emerges. It's the silence from which all sound comes from. It's the darkness that light emerges from. It's that place, right? It's the singularity before the Big Bang. It's the middle of the ebb and flow of the universe, right? So the Fool is a very special card. It's also, incidentally, the character of the story, right? The story of the Fool's journey. And of course, who's the Fool? We all are, right? We're born that way. And we kind of jump back and forth between that character throughout our lives. Tavon, thanks for popping in on the stream. So, that said, Tavon, this one's for you. I'm just going to pull a random card before I get into readings and some other stuff tonight. There's a few things I'm going to be speaking about. But it's just a quick card as a random for anyone that comes into the stream tonight. The deck is the Surrealist Tarot. The card that you have is the Four of Swords. Four of Swords. And just the quick sort of little white book message for the Four of Swords is the idea of peace, but peace because the act of deciding to stop fighting occurs. It's not like peace in its natural state. This is peace because you take the action to stop the argument or to put the swords down, so to speak. So it's more truce than peace. Peace is the product of truce. Okay, so there you go. That's just a quick little thing before we get going on readings and some other stuff. If anybody is interested in participating tonight, there's something that I do as a free personal message for anyone who enters the stream. And what we do is we find your Deacon. The Deacon is the card that rules the period of time you're born in, right? And so it's named that, or the Decanate, after the basically the compulsion of the ancients to divide their sky into various sections so that they can utilize it for navigation, spiritual meditation, and to disseminate knowledge, right? And so one of those ways they kind of chopped up the sky was into the 10-degree sections, and that leaves us with 36 deacons, each one covering a period of time. Right now we're in the period of the 9 of Pentacle, and are going to be moving into the 10 of Pentacle on the 12th, right? And now we can also do that with our birthdays. And so, and this knowledge is very old. It comes from, well, it's kind of hard to tell exactly where it comes from, whether it's Egyptian, pre-Egyptian, Hermetic, or something even older than that. But that said, the most polished, corrected version that's available to us thus far is in Crowley 777 and various other individuals who have utilized and collectively explored that and kind of made some changes. There were some adjustments that were made to certain signs and so on to kind of make sure that it lines up properly. And so what we're left with is this sort of beautiful system of the tarot wrapped up into the sky. And so what we do is we find your birth card, which is the card of the period of time that you were born, and then we find your deacon. So for instance, mine is the 10 of Wand in Sagittarius. And so what we do is I don't need the year, I just need the day and month of your birth, and we can locate your card and do readings that way. And it's very insightful because what this is able to do, even for somebody who's new to the tarot or unfamiliar but wants to use it, once you know your card, it doesn't change throughout your life. It's kind of like your sun sign, so it stays with you. And how that can be used is once you know the card of the period of time that we're in, you can combine your card with that, and it gives you sort of a horoscope for the next period of time, 10-day period. So highly effective for an individual without having to do deep digging or rely on a potentially inaccurate source like some website or some kind of app to tell you what, this is a very quick way for an individual to access this ancient knowledge and to provide insight on your own individual circumstance. Find your birth card. It carries with you your whole life. You only have to memorize the one, and then you can take that to all kinds of stuff, right? We don't just have to look at the card of the period of time that we're in. How about the birthday of a love interest? How about the date of a future event, like if you're considering forming a company or getting married and picking a date to get married, or various circumstances. I'm sure you can come up with dozens on your own just on the fly, right? And so the applications are endless. And one of the things that I like about it is that it's not just some arbitrarily chosen system. It's actually really intricately tied to a body of knowledge of this macro and microcosm that is very profound. And I speak about it occasionally, and my goal is to, as the community grows, to get deeper into that. Right? There's various levels of knowledge. There's the outer, which is basically, I say, the lie told openly. And what I mean by the lie is the lie of our mind to our brain. Our eyes take in everything, and so that includes truth and falsehood. And it's incumbent upon us to do the work to differentiate between those two things, right? And when we're able to do that, and we're left with just that truth as the thing that guides us, then good things happen. And the opposite is also true. Dis-ease, mental instability and suffering, causing the suffering of others. This all comes from a place of the work going the opposite direction, right? And so as we enter these different periods of time, if we have some insight as to where we're coming from and where we're going, we can better prepare for that and navigate it more smoothly. And ultimately, the goal being to grow if we can, profit if we can, and ultimately to go with, as opposed to against, the current of our destiny, of our karma, of our trajectory, right? try swimming against a river. You may even succeed a little bit, but you're going to get really tired and eventually get carried by it anyway. You might as well swim with it. And when you do, you have the momentum of that river behind you, and it's very hard to fail. And even when you do, you just keep going. It's sort of a smooth process because, of course, failure is necessary for growth. So that said, let's take a look in the meantime at some of the topics that we're going to be talking about today as well. Understanding the court cards, if anybody's interested in reading as a practical tool as opposed to the from the other end, then it's hard sometimes when you begin studying the tarot and you get a court card in a reading. There's various books that teach the tarot, and each has their own approach to that, right? And sometimes it could be a little hard, like I talked about. You get all this information and you have to discern between truth and lies. And these three layers of knowledge. The second layer is the truth told in secret, right? So if the outer layer is lies out in the open, the next layer that's available to those with ears to hear is the truth told in secret. And this is represented by the High Priestess of the tarot, right? Let's actually jump to that. Okay. What you're looking at here are those two sides. The High Priestess is the truth in secret, and the Hierophant is the lies told openly. Anybody is welcome, but they're not telling you the truth. Now, with the High Priestess, it's that next layer inside, which is truth told in secret. It is not available to everyone. It is only available to those with the ears to hear. And so, with respect to that, and with respect to the, Sunil, hello. How are you doing? Thanks for popping in on the stream. With respect to that, the court cards are one of these symbol systems that gives us access to a specific type of knowledge, a certain type of reading. The outer answer is it's about people, and you can kind of judge the race and the gender and the physical qualities of that person by the cards. And that's the lie told openly. Can it be useful for that? Of course. And there's certainly going to be circumstances when doing readings where you're talking about an individual person or two people, and so it is definitely a useful device for including people in the reading, right? So sure. But then we have this other knowledge, right? And this other knowledge is this idea of the High Priestess, the truth in secret. And so what the secret is in this circumstance is a little different. Instead of the courts being related to people, and it's obviously easy to see that. I mean, it doesn't take hard to look, oh, well, this is an older man or a younger woman. There's this idea of the stages going from the younger to the older, the elemental stages, fire, water, air, earth, so forth. But then you have also this other layer of hidden knowledge of what these actually represent. Now I talked before about the Deacons being these 10-degree periods of time. Well, the ancients also did another couple of divisions, right? One of the divisions that the ancients did was the seasons, right? And what is that? That's not an arbitrary number that they just picked to say, let's cut up the sky into 4 because I like the number. It's certainly not that at all. What they did make, however, the observation when watching the sun, that it does this very interesting and beautiful dance. It doesn't just rise and set every day because of our rotation or any of this. It has this interesting kind of dance across the sky, right? So if you look east at the beginning of the year compared to the end, you'll notice that the sun kind of actually does this across the eastern part of the sky. It's not directly dead east. It's only directly dead east twice a year. And the other times of those years, they're on the extremes. And interestingly, that goes for the seasons. The extreme season of summer and the extreme season of winter are when it's back and forth. And during those opposite ones, these transitional periods, is when it's in the middle, getting ready to move to either direction, right? And so you have this idea of this transition, and we call those seasons. And those seasons are marked by those points, the extremes on the outside of the east, and then dead east in the center, those 2 times a year. And we call those the equinoxes and the solstices. The equinoxes being those beautiful transitional periods where it's dead center east, and then the solstices where it's at the either extreme. So we have seasons. So it makes complete sense that the ancients would have cut the sky up into 4 sections like that, right? And then they also cut it up into 12 sections. Now, why 12? Well, the moons, right? I mean, that's a simple one. It's the number of times the moon does a cycle and the number of times the earth does a cycle around the sun. The moon goes 12 times in the time it takes the earth to do 1. So we divide the wheel up into 12 sections. And these are actually very elegantly displayed in this particular chart with color. Each 3 deacons are in 1 month, right? So it's a very quick and easy way to at a glance go, oh, well, 3 deacons in the month. And then there's some other information here as far as the planets for each deacon, right? So Sagittarius, 10 of Wand, is not just Sagittarius, that's Saturn in Sagittarius, which is different than the 9 of Wand, which is Moon in Sagittarius, and so forth. All kinds of really good, useful information here with respect to getting to the heart of the symbolism behind these cards and where it comes from. And that it's not an arbitrary process, but in fact it's very intimately, genetically connected to astronomy, to science. And so the quartz, you'll notice, do not appear on this wheel. What this wheel shows us is the major arcana in this form of the signs, Leo being strength and so forth, right? We have Sagittarius as temperance and so on. Now, and actually, well, we should say Aries is the emperor, just because, you know, we usually start the chart at Aries, or oftentimes Aries or Taurus, depending upon the system. So we don't see the court cards. Where are the court cards? Well, what they did with those, the ancients also divided the sky into 30-degree sections. 3 was a very holy number. It's always been. And what that represents, and I discussed this before on the stream, are the 3 directions. The 3 mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which represent the elements, right? The fire, water, air, that combined make earth, is actually secret language that is just pointing to the fact that 3-dimensionally there are 3 directions, and when those directions are looked at as a shadow 2-dimensionally, it makes a square, and in 3 dimensions it makes a cube. It's sort of the formation of our physical reality is this number 3, and the cube being earth, the 4th element, earth, which is the combination of those 3. So it really is a micro-macro explanation of the archetypal representation of the creation of the universe mathematically, and the spiritual representation of the creation of the universe, which is this combination of these 3 elements, the mother letters, to create the word. And that word, spoke by God, created the universe. Now, there's other systems as well. This is an example. This is the Alchemical tarot, which does not use the same system of the Hebrew letters. It uses the Alchemical system, which is actually identical and probably older. I would say loftily that the Alchemical system is the basis for a lot of religions, a lot of different faiths that derived by anthropomorphizing this knowledge. But if you take that out of it and just get to the core of what we're discussing, the alchemical system is probably the most pure. So that said, it's still the idea of salt, sulfur, and mercury, right? So when we talk about the 30-degree sections as opposed to the 10-degree sections, each one of these court cards has a different role in this story, the Fool's Journey. And so the role here is such. The page, also called the princess, is the card that represents the womb. It's called very often in the occult circles the throne of the ace. And what that means is the ace of that suit, like the ace of cup, is born into the world through the page. The page is the vessel by which that manifests physically. So there's some implications there. That means that the quartz aren't physically manifested yet. The page is the point that allows that to happen, right? And then we have the knight, which is, of course, the seed. The knight courting the page, impregnating her, gives birth to the next element. Then there's a promotion because of that. And that promotion is that the knight becomes the king. Now, in the Thoth system, the knight is called the prince, and not to confuse things, and the king is called the knight. But I'm using the Rider-Waite here anyway, because it seems to be the deck that everybody knows. Although the Thoth is a very close second. But that said, the knight is through this relationship with the page, has essentially married into the family. She's the princess. And of course, the knight becomes the king. And she's elevated to the queen. Then the process repeats as we enter the new monarchy. They move on, and there's a new set of king and queen that's installed. And that occurs through this process just revolving with a different set of elements. Okay, and so that's the story of the quartz. Now let's look at what I just said as a single static image that is exactly what was just spoken, but in a graphical format. Okay, this is what I just spoke. And if we look at the outer portion of this wheel, we're going to see the quartz, the queen, the prince, and the knight moving around in that circle, and then the outermost is the princess that covers that period of time. Now notice the princess covers an entire season, whereas the knight, queen, and prince, or in this case the knight, queen, and king in the Rider-Waite, occupy a 30-degree period of time. So we have these overlapping periods of time of the seasons that are ruled by the princess in a state of being pregnant to the next element. And then we have the courting process of the knight doing battle to win the princess, impregnate her, and in doing so become king and queen, and while she's queen, giving birth to the next element. And this is this story, right? And so here is that story. And we use this very often to get to the heart of individual, not as the state that we all think we're in going through our normal day-to-day life, but at the core of our existence when we were created, prior to personality, prior to our mind becoming our identity. And this is the identity before mind, and the one that will be there after. Mind is a product of the brain. The brain dies. We don't. We're not the thinker. We're the observer of the thought. The brain thinks, right? And so what I'm talking about is prior to the brain. And it also will succeed it. And then manifest again as a different form, right? And so that's what we're talking about here. So that is the innermost ring. Well, it's the beginning of the innermost ring, of which is the truth told openly. The truth told in secret is the court cards are not people, races, genders, hair, and eye color. Although it can be useful for that, it's not what was designed for. And in fact, instead, what it is this dance cataloging the seasons, the periods of time, and there's some other factors And it also gives us some insight into where the meanings of the cards come from, right? So, why is this one card mean success and this one mean failure? When ultimately the symbols came from 5 swords lined up on a card from the 1400s, or prior to that, the older decks that led to the design of these. Tarot didn't come from the 1400s. What came from the 1400s was the technology that allowed it to become mainstream. Printing was cheap, paper was available. You didn't have to be a noble, although actually that's, in the beginning, that was the case. It was in the latter portion that it became a little more, Now you didn't have to be Bill Gates rich. You only had to be like, TV personality rich to have a tarot deck. Isn't that funny? I mean, we can get them now for $5. So, at the end of the day, the different bodies of knowledge really are accessed by your desire. Your desire to learn and to know and to utilize this is what guides you to find it. It's the word secret, I think, is not a good word when we talk about a lot of this knowledge, because it's not secret, which I believe implies a willing occultation. I'm hiding it on purpose. That's not secret from this respect. The secret here is that it's not readily available. It's don't forget, the eye see everything, and it's incumbent upon us to discern the difference between the truth and falsehood. So that's basically the idea of the courts, understanding the courts. And I hope that will give some insight to those who are approaching this subject, to understand there's 3 levels of knowledge to this. The outermost surface knowledge is useful, and you can continue to use that even when you embrace the inner knowledge. Don't ignore it, right? It's a very useful tool for as you continue on your journey to let in some of these concepts, right? Now, as far as the karmic silhouette and what that means, the period of time that we're in right now is the filter by which the light of creation goes through and then manifests in our world. Now, what do I mean by silhouette? Well, that light, we can't see all of it, and very symbolically, the idea of the world is sort of is defined by how it's limited, what isn't allowed in. And so there are things in the way. And when that light shines through, it casts a shadow. And that shadow has a shape, and that shape can be kind of drawn as a silhouette. This is symbolic language, this is metaphor. And that silhouette, once we see it, gives us access. It gives us the ability to determine, what is it I'm walking into? What is the shape of this thing I'm walking into? And what is my shape? And when I know that, I now can ask, do I need to just run and jump through? Do I need to squeeze through? Do I need to actually change my shape to fit through? Can I change the shape of it to fit me? Can I even get through? All these questions we all already have, but what this does is allow us access to the answers, right? So the karmic silhouette is the period of time that we're in right now compared to our time, our shape. And right now we're in the Nine of Pentacles. So locating your birth card is as simple as Googling 777, or another great resource for that is pretty much anything ever written by Lon Milo Duquette, whether it's on the subject of tarot or on the subject of Kabbalah. He's the go there. If Crowley is the truth in secret, Duquette is the truth open. So just both are useful. Crowley is a little harder to digest for someone who's new to the language, and becomes more difficult over time. So Duquette's the opposite. So that said, definitely give that a look. Now, as far as locating your birth card without having to go to the internet and to read deep esoteric tracts of Hermeticism and poetic language, we have this chart. On the shoulders of giants, right? I mean, the people spent all this time developing this research over thousands of years. And thankfully, because of technology and otherwise, we have the ability to very easily diagram this stuff and then share it. And so here's an example of that, right? And so at this point, anybody who would like to participate in this process, all that needs to be done is that we just need to locate your birthday on the wheel, which would just be, for instance, the period of time that we're in right now. Today's date being September 10th is in that green section to the right. And that's the 9 of Pentacle. And on the 12th, we're going to be moving into the 10 of Pentacle. We're moving from the energy of Venus in Virgo into the energy of Mercury in Virgo. What does that mean? We'll talk about that in a moment as we get to individuals and their birth cards. So anyone in the room like to participate? Simply put your birth month and day in the chat, and that will allow me to locate your card, and then we can go from there. As the stream kind of comes and goes and people pop in and out, we'll continue the process throughout the night. And otherwise, we'll continue on with some of the subjects that we're discussing. I find that very often in the tarot community, there's a lot of judgment going on. And one of the things that I wanted to discuss today with respect to that is an important understanding and distinction about what tarot is and what it means and how you approach this oracle. Because I think a lot of the criticism that people have for individual readers in their approach or otherwise would really be alleviated, ameliorated, lifted if we had a greater understanding of this thing that we're approaching and what it is that we should be doing. Not only from the respect of the reader, but from the respect of the querent. If you're the reader and the querent, this matters more. But if you're the person going to a tarot reader, it's important to understand why you're doing that, right? And so, even if the question is something as simple as "Do they love me?" that does matter. But understand and expect the kind of answer that the tarot is able to provide. It is not a yes or no tool. It's not a tell this person what they want to hear. It's pretty honest, and the only oracle that's more honest than the tarot is the I Ching. The I Ching don't care about your feelings, right? The tarot can be interpreted by an individual, a reader, an intuitive, an empath, somebody that's trained. There's a lot of types of people that can approach the tarot. I approach it actually from a few angles, but the I Ching doesn't allow for that. You read what it tells you, and then you deal with that, right? And it's a great tool for that. And actually, you can use the system that the tarot is built on to find those correspondences between the I Ching and tarot, and use the cards to read the I Ching. It's not the most effective method, frankly, mathematically. I think the best method is the seed or the yarrow method of choosing the hexagrams or the trigrams, more specifically. But yes, so at the end of the day, your approach matters. Artie, hey, what's up? Go for it. Let's pop over then. How's it going? Thanks for popping back in. Okay, so let's move that over. Let's pop that up. Okay, let's take a look. Sure. Alright, I'm not going to use this deck for that. I'm going to use a different deck. Alright. Yeah, it's a strange day today. I actually started the stream much later than usual. And so I'm glad to see you pop in. I don't know what time it is where you are. I'm in the eastern United States, and right now it is 3:45, 3:45 a.m. I think I'm -5 GMT. Or -5.5. I can't remember. Okay, so what's a good deck for this type of question? Holy Light. I'm going to use the Tarot of the Holy Light. Luana, hello. Oh, great, thank you. How long have you been here, I wonder? I got pretty heavy. There's a few things I just felt like I needed to share. It matters if it's coming across properly and if I'm communicating it properly. So Artie's got stuff going on. Anyone who's been in the stream here knows. And so we're going to take a look at some things. And I'm wondering what the best way to go about this is. In fact, you know what I'm going to do here? I'll call it my subscriber special, okay? So just a brief interlude. I hit 200 subscribers. I've been trying to do this for a long time. I paused the channel after like 2 years ago starting it up, and some things, life happened, whatever. I wasn't able to continue, and I finally thought the timing is right. You know, I'm ready to do this. Long story short, I started it back up and was questioning how long it would take to grow, and the subscriptions matter from a lot of reasons when it comes to being presented to people in the feed and some other things. And so it was very, you know, these numbers, although I hate the fact that I care, you know, once you hit a certain threshold, you don't have to think about it any longer, and I'm 1/5 of the way there. So I hit 200 subscribers, so it just feels good. I know it's a silly number and it won't matter when it's 20,000, but for right now, it feels good. But that said, though, so we'll call it a subscriber special, and I'm just going to do a reading that I feel like doing without worrying about charging or anything like that. So, okay. Oh, great! I appreciate that, Luana. Yeah, I think I think you'll enjoy some of the stuff I talked about. And if you feel like donating, go ahead, but don't even worry about it. Like, really. So I'm going to do. Your question was related to your health, and I think it's important that we look at this. I'm gonna start with a mind, body, and soul reading. This is a reading I developed over time, individually, and it's going to give us some insight on not only the issue at hand, but other influences. Your mentally, which affects behavior. Behavior affects health. Spiritually, which is also kind of karmically, affects your thinking. All these things are connected, right? Thank you so much. And then obviously what matters, the physical, which is, you know, the body. Because ultimately, a lot of what we don't realize is that our mind is much more powerful, and we've heard it, we all know that, much more powerful than we know with respect to the body, but it's actually deeper than that. Because, you know, the lesson of the tarot and the lesson of this body of knowledge that it represents is the fact that we are very often not in control. We very often subconsciously give agency to another being, and that being is our mind, which is it's a function of the brain. It's not us, right? We are transcendent of that. We're going to talk about that tonight, by the way, on a couple of different subjects that's going to come up. And it's an interesting subject. But that said, once we are able to work through that and we gain our agency back, is when we're finally in a position to know this profound truth, right? And so we can do as much as we can to rid ourselves of the things that are causing the disease to begin with, and rather to, through right thinking, right eating, right breathing, right soul love, both self and allowing the right in and not allowing the wrong in. We health comes with that, because that's our goal anyway. One of the reasons that we were created, don't forget, is to be joyous, right? Saji, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. We were created to enjoy the dance, to listen to the music, to don't miss it. I believe it was Virginia Woolf who said, "I think it makes God angry when you walk by purple in nature and don't notice it." It's like, don't miss the purple. So, that said, though, the question's about health. And that's a profound subject. It's important, because that implies, just by virtue of the fact that the question was asked, that we're talking about a soul suffering. And that's it's not good. We want to alleviate that. And so not only are we going to ask your question about your health, your question was kind of specific. When will it end? Doing well, yes. It's not even about when will it end. It's also about what can we do to point in the direction of health, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. Is last, because physically comes from all those other things being aligned. Tarot of the Holy Light. It's a very nice deck. I think you guys will enjoy the artwork. And the symbolism is very profound. So this is for Artie, and I'm hoping I'm able to provide you with some insight to help you on your journey toward healing. And if healing isn't possible, toward letting go and moving toward whatever the new thing is, as opposed to the old. The first card I'm going to put down is the current state. Now, I don't read reversals, and so if you see me flip cards, that's why. The next card, well, 3 cards, are going to be the mind, body, and soul. Your mental state, your thinking, your worldview. What is a worldview? The assumptions that we make. When I get up from my chair, I put my foot down on the floor to get up and stand and walk, and I don't think to myself, gee, I wonder if the floor will be there to meet my foot. Of course not. I just know the floor will be there. That's the worldview. My worldview is that the floor is solid and my foot won't go through it, right? So it just enters my world without being processed by my brain. It's automatic, right? I just assume it. That's what this represents. This is where you're coming from, the lens you see the world, mentally. The next card is the body. Maybe the most important with respect to your question. And then finally, spirit or soul. This can reveal not only where you're coming from spiritually, but also how your spirit is being affected. All these things affect each other. And, we have to do what we can from the top down to heal the process. If you're injured spiritually and you heal the body, the injury will reappear because the cause wasn't corrected, just the symptom. Treating symptoms doesn't cure. treating causes cures. That's your birth card. You're the Ten of Wands, by the way. Right? And I know that because so am I. We share a birthday. I am also December 16th. Full disclosure in the room, Artie and I happen to share a birthday. Although I got 20 years on. But that said, though, this is your birth card. You are the Ten of Wands as your birth card. So, what we're looking at here, first off, it's obvious, is a lot of cups. Right? Let me just zoom to the desk. There's a lot of cups. We have the Three of Cup, we have the Four of Cup. Now, and then we have the sword in the body section. We'll talk about that in a moment. This is kind of very interesting, and anyone who reads tarot will know that this is going to be a subject to talk about. And then now here we have, in the spirit section, the burden that you carry. And what we need to answer, which is the real question, is why do you carry? What is going on here? Who? So, the Four of Cups in the mind is complete disdain for your environment. It's like cynicism, but it's not your fault. You're cynical because it's happened over and over. Like you're tired of the same cycle. Yes, fine, I did what you said, but it happened again. Or I took a chance and it got me again. And that can wear on you to the point that you go, you know what, it's not even worth doing because it's just going to be the same result. And so that cynicism will actually destroy your motivation emotionally. It kind of leaves your cups empty. Now, one of the lessons of the Four of Cups, it's not 100% apparent in this version. And the Rider-Waite will recognize that it's the Three Cups, and then the fourth is being introduced from God, from divine, and it's being ignored. It's like, yeah, I know, thanks for the cup you're going to give me, but I know what it is and I don't want it. It's always the same thing and it's bad, right? And so it may be prudent for me to pop that up for you to look at. Okay. Like, here, take the cup. Nah. Now, the Three of Cup, which represents you in this circumstance, let's jump back to the desk, which represents you in this circumstance, are the three cups that you see here, right? These three that you're looking at in the front and ignoring the one that's being offered, okay? Now, and if, again, your birth card coming up in the soul section here means that we really genuinely, that is a very, everyone sort of represents in their behavior or in their sort of karmic trajectory their birth card to some degree, but you do a lot. Now, what does that card represent? This Ten of Wands. It's a very, let's pop it back up. First of all, the tens are all three of the signs in one. The Ten of Wands is all the fire signs. Each one of those there's a different kind of fire. There's the candle, which is a fire that is a slave. It has no control of its destiny. It's just, however, out of its own defiance, it continues to burn, knowing that it will just be consumed and die. That's the candle. It's a beautiful story. And then you have the bonfire, the forest fire, or in its greatest, a star. And that's all kind of wrapped up. The energy is in its completest in the physical place. Now, what the image you're looking at is an individual who is taking up all these burdens. Each one of these sticks does not belong to him. It belongs to somebody else. And he said, oh, you know what? Oh, I can take it. I can take it. I can take it. And so the first initial meaning of this card with respect to where you are, this isn't just your birth card I'm talking about. This is in the sole respect to your health question. is that you're carrying something with you from somebody else. And you have this compulsion. It's kind of built into you to do that. And now if it becomes unsustainable because you've overextended or because you're underappreciated and they kind of use that and, oh, it looks like you can carry a couple more. Come on, man, you've given so much already, and then you want me to take more? Okay, I'll take more. So, and that led to some bad things. Now, so let's look at this card here. This is the body card. Okay, this is the question that you've asked, because what is a question about health but all this stuff that we're talking about manifesting in the body? Okay, let's zoom in on the desk. It's interesting, too, how we have the moons kind of repeated and the sun repeated here, where these two things are pointing to this. And what this card represents in the Two of Swords is this idea of this kind of alchemical marriage, this process. However, it's a certain stage of that process. The idea of this stage is that there's two competing ideas combined are causing the disease. It's this idea of, I want to kind of single out this card. That's why I'm putting, the reading's not done. I just want to single it out visually. And now the idea of this here is that the lesson, the answer, like the advice. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a health professional, is you have to discern between these two ideas, but it's difficult to do that. And so rather what you need to do is to ignore both. It's not, and that doesn't mean don't do the advice. That's not what I mean. It means when you're looking at decisions, if you have multiple answers and you're not sure which way to go, oftentimes the best way to do that is to look at it from the perspective of each as the lens of viewing the other. And by doing that, and this is kind of, you've seen this maybe in the Two of Swords, it's probably prudent to pop it up, in the rider system of the person with the two swords and they're blindfolded. And let's just pop that up for visual. Okay. What's that hiding? Okay. Let's move it over. All right, and so if we consider, let me put this in the order that it came out so we can have the right visualization here. Sorry. The software I use is a bit clunky. It's not as easy as just clicking it and dragging it over. It's sort of, okay, so now the three of cups, I'll put elsewhere. Okay, I'll just like put it there now. All right. This is kind of up on the top, right, in the on the desk here, and typically in the reading I have it there intentionally separate, because it represents oftentimes either you in the situation or the influence, like the thing that influenced the scenario here. Now, what you have with this idea here, let me jump back to the the Three of Cups is this idea of like a celebration, but it also refers to the stages, right? Because these three women are the maid, mother, and crone. These three women are the young, fertile, then the mother, the like the middle-aged nurturer, and then the crone, the older, and the grandmother, the wise one. And so it refers to the stages. And another way to refer to that, this is again those levels of knowledge, is genetics being passed down, something that came from somebody else. It's sort of out of your, right, and that's shared. Another way that this card is represented and we all just went through this, is contraction, right? Like you get it from somebody. So that's kind of the idea of what we're looking at here. Let me just click it. Okay, good. So now let me put these back here. With respect to this too, and the question of time, like when will it end? What this appears is that there's a couple of things happening here. There's some type of thing you're ignoring. Whether it's a piece of advice or something you know, or something that you shouldn't be doing that you've done, or something that you should be doing that you aren't. But it's definitely related to this Ten of Pentacles, or the Wand, pardon me, the Ten of Wand. It's this idea that this thing you're carrying is making you ill. And it is a good portion of that, the suffering, although it's elsewhere, it's manifesting in your body, is also heavily in the mind. And it is a creation of, it is due to this competing, the Two of Swords, this competing idea. Typically, the Two of Swords is the idea of holding both, but not identifying with either. That's what the blindfold means. Like you're kind of immune to that. And it's a card oftentimes of mastery. But it can also mean not doing so good with that, essentially. And that causing a confused mental state. Now the symbolism of the cards here are similar but not exact. And I think it's prudent to consider what we're seeing here as well. Alchemically, there's the idea of the marriage, of the union of these two elements to create a third, and then that third going through this process of refinement until it becomes this perfect thing. Right? The Philosopher's Stone, the goal of the work, the magnum opus, and so forth. So the stage we're looking at here is the stage just prior to the union. The 3 is the stage where we have the, let me jump back. The result of it, the surface. The 2 is a line, right? And so it's at a point where nothing can actually occur yet, but once that union takes place, as soon as it does, the 3rd is born and we have two-dimensional reality. There's at least a surface by which the light of creation can cast a shadow. So at least something can happen. Not a whole lot, but it's something. So the 2 is that state of right prior to do that. The connection has taken place, and the 3 is kind of about to be born. So what that though means is the idea of the desire to connect in the body. So all these things are telling me you caught something from somewhere, or it came from somewhere, like for instance a genetic disease that got passed down. So did you catch it? No, but you're not responsible for it. However, it's being exacerbated by behavior. One example of this would be, for instance, somebody who has a genetic predisposition toward diabetes that overeats because they're coping. Another example of this would be somebody who due to a family predilection toward alcohol abuse, gets sick with their liver. These are all different ideas of the fact that, like the behavior here in some way is exacerbating this predisposition that came from somewhere else. Okay? Depression. Well, if you're looking at the 2 of Swords, that's kind of an obvious symbol there with respect to these ideas. The 4 of Cup is kind of literally the card of depression. It's sort of the idea of focusing on the past and not allowing the joy of this gift, like this cup that's being offered. But the burden of the wands is the big thing here, the cause of that. It's not the cause, it's what allowing for it to it's what's allowing for it. It's not the cause of it, it's what's allowing for it. Now, the Three of Cup here is the biggie. It's the kind of the question that we need to talk about and get to the heart of, because the Three of Cup, what are these stages? Right? Who in the family is handing you more sticks that you can't carry? And there's a cycle here, right? And that gets carried into your relationships. It gets carried into your love interests and how you seek, accept, interact, communicate love. All comes from that type of thing. And of course, the cups are an emotional card, right? They're the heart, not the mind, not the body, not the soul, but the heart. And the heart is the first thing to be injured by family. And if you looked back, I talked about this yesterday. There's typically 3 events that take place in our life, and these 3 events form our personality. Usually the first is kind of around our earlier part of our world, where we're, for some reason, something occurs in our lives, typically through parents or something that occurs in our home, changes our view of the world, and that's dramatic. It's something that we never expected. And we have to cope with that loss of the way we thought things were, and typically a personality trait's develop because of that. I told my story about being late for a standardized test and having a low score, and it affecting how I interacted with people from that then on. I mean, it really can affect your whole life. And so, interestingly, you have these 3 cups that you're staring at, and here's this other one that kind of replaces those 3 that's being ignored. So what I would say to you is there's this idea that it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to be upset, and it's okay to mourn the loss of the old way of thinking. But actually, the only way to grow is through that loss. There's no room for both. You have to let the old go to allow the new. And unfortunately, we kind of get stuck in this place of identifying too much with the memory. And that's what's happened here. This person also, in the card, not necessarily you, is like kind of angry a lot and sort of at the world, and feels like they've been wronged, like they had something that they were entitled to, whether that's emotionally or otherwise, and they can't have that, and that can emotionally be a difficult thing. It leads to a lot of sort of instability and rash decisions. Now also, the 2 of Swords being in the body compared to the cups being in mind is sort of opposite. It's not exactly, but it's pretty opposite, right? Because we always talk about the difference between the mind and the heart, and they don't always want the same thing, right? The mind's practical, and the heart, its job is to just execute the desires of the root chakra, right? It's just sort of like, my job is to justify it through emotion. All it wants is love, but the problem is that it's blind and doesn't know, so it just takes whatever you give it, thinking it's love. And so we have to be careful what we give it. And what determines that? Our mind. The story that it tells about the thing that we're about to experience. Is it good, bad, or ugly? Do we want it or not? And now one of the things that we do is we identify with these thoughts that are not healthy, especially when they come from someone else. You're this, you're that, you're not this, you're not that. And we believe it. Now consider this, and it's the important lesson here. Forms that exist in the mind are not real unless we manifest them. The mind is not ours. We are not the thinker. We're the observer of the thought. We are not the sound. You don't hear my voice and become me. So why do these sounds enter your mind or enter your ear? That's not you. It's just a sound entering your ear. Thoughts enter your mind. They're not yours. You're just watching them. And those thoughts are, you're not this, you're not that. Maybe they're right. Or whatever trauma that we go back to, our cups. And when we have this realization and we are able to make it our worldview, then we are released from literally the sticks kind of crumble. Forget about it. Like they don't even, it's not even putting them down. So the voice ends, and what happens is that the heart and the mind chakra are one. They unite. It's like and so they're not competing any longer. They kind of are in accordance. And you know, there's kind of a beautiful lesson in that, actually, which we're going to be talking about today with respect to the tower and the star. The tower is the idea of this like horrible circumstance, whatever, and that's the outer meaning. We'll talk about it. And then the star, which is the result of that, which is us shed of all that nonsense. It's the actual, that's the thing that we are, not the thinker, the observer of the thought, not the dancer, but the dance. So what I'm getting at is that very oftentimes we can begin the process of healing by kind of looking at each cup and going, all right, what is this circumstance? Who is this influence? What occurred that put me in this state of needing to cope, and in doing so creating an identity around that? Because, you know, although it might work for you throughout your life and it may seem useful, it's not authentic. It's not actually who we are. And there's a beautiful magic that happens when we are introduced to ourselves. And that is that all of the things that we've been carrying that isn't us disappears. And it's almost instant. And some of it is. Like, I mean, you can literally be dizzy, hear static in your head from the jolt of all that nonsense being gone, and you looking at yourself for the first time in your life, being free of that burden. I've been through it. That's why I can speak to it in with such authority. It works. It works. And so if depression or mental activity is causing you bodily harm, I can help you. And there are resources locally that can help you as well. It doesn't have to be me. And it's easier than you think when you're open to the process. It's very enlightening. But I will say this. So I'll absolutely put you on the list, Imran. Thanks for popping in. I'll say this. As far as the question of when, there's an idea here of a cycle. Like I see it, it's something that will continue to happen until maybe some action's taken with respect to that 10. Okay? It's part of who you are. I get it. But that doesn't mean that we can't, instead of carrying 10, carry 2 at a time. And so we got to make 3-4 trips. That's fine. Maybe say, you know what, I can't do 10. I can only do 8, and I'm only taking 2 at a time, so deal. Or I can only do 4. So maybe you grab a couple and we can do this together, so you don't have to be the one carrying the burden all the time, emotionally, mentally, physically. So I hope that was insightful, okay? And, you know, there's a lot, I have to say this too, anybody who reads tarot can understand and appreciate what I'm about to say. There's some things that you kind of almost feel like it's not appropriate to mention on a live stream. And so what I would say again is if you are seeking help, which clearly you are, if you're here, you are. And so I would say that you can, there are services and things available to you that are more than just the conversation and the insight. And if you need help locating those services, I'm willing to help you do that. And so just at that number, you can text, or you can give me an email at that Gmail there. and we can just kind of chat about, you know, what some of the resources are in your local area, some of the resources that are available to you spiritually, or you know, otherwise that can maybe put you on a better trajectory than the one that you're on, which seems to be a little kind of stagnant. Okay. And you know, all I ask of anybody that joins my stream or that I work with is, you know, I take this really seriously. I've been doing this a very long time, and I would not waste my time sharing this if I weren't taking it seriously. And I just ask you to do the same thing. And more important than that, care about yourself. And so what does that mean? It means that if you need to take steps for your health, you need to take steps. You need to accept the help that's been offered you. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about this cup that's being offered from the divinity that you're ignoring. That's really important that you don't do that, okay, Artie? Dude, you got a lot going on. I know that. I mean, it's a lot. You have every right to be feeling what you're feeling. But you don't have to feel it all the time. I just want a moment to kind of shake that off. There's a lot of energy there that is heavy. I'm going to take a sip of some coffee. Ooh-wee. There's other stuff too. There's stuff here. You know, here's the deal with reading tarot. You know, you're inviting for the period of time somebody else into your world, right? And they're inviting you in, and that's willing. Like, the fact that you come here and ask for even if it's a trite question, the fact that you come here and ask a question is you inviting me into your world. And by me saying yes, I'm inviting you back in. And so during that period of time, there's a connection. And that connection is real. It's physical. It's actual. And that connection is an energy exchange. And that can be you know, tiring, kind of on an emotional level, on a because the spirit is using all kinds of stuff, right? It's using my heart, it's using my head, it's using different type parts of the brain to come up with the words so that the muscles move in the air, right? There's a lot going on there, and it's using all these parts to communicate this message. And the hope is that we can be centered enough to not get in our own way and to let, you know, kind of channel it, right? Jocelyn, thanks for popping in. Let me get you on the list because I missed you last night, and Simran as well. Yeah, let me do that now. Let me just type this on here. Also, I wanted to start doing something kind of new here. And I'll show you guys in just a sec what it means. It's for everybody that's in the room too, so it's kind of just a cute thing that I thought would be fun to do. Okay, you're welcome. Sure, of course. Okay, let me just set this back up, and I'll be right with you guys. It's going to be the 9 of Pentacles, and I need the Hermit. There you go. Okay, and the 10. Great. Okay. So, first of all, Simran, just quit, and this is not your reading, don't worry. But just there's a quick random card, just for the heck of it. This is from the Surrealist Tarot, which is a totally bonkers art. It's quite beautiful, but it's not typical. It does use the typical tarot system, but the artwork is not. And so it's just for fun. We're just going to enjoy this deck together by doing random cards for everybody that comes in tonight. So this one is for Simran, Seven of Wand. You want to talk about a different kind of look, right? I mean, how crazy is that? All right, and just so everyone can see the difference here, like that knows the Rider-Waite system. This is the Seven of Wand in Rider-Waite, and this is the Seven of Wand in this Surrealist Tarot. Usually it refers to having the high ground, winning the fight, getting it done, showing up what nobody else did, and being okay with that. Now, cause in the Rider system, notice that this person here on the left, they're on top of that hill there with all these wands coming up at him, and he is clearly in a position of power. There's no bruises, wounds. They're confidently fighting this battle with a piece of cake. They can kind of handle anything that gets thrown at them. All right, that's typically that's like the surface little white book meaning. All right, and now here we have that same kind of concept where we have the holder of the wand masterfully just, knocking everyone out with one hand, right? And it's just interesting, and the interpretation from the artist is just, love that. If I had to complain, just from a tarot perspective, all I could really say is that the wand is indicative of the element of fire, and that is not quite apparent at all in that card. That almost looks like an earth card, right? Okay, so, and another random one. This is for Jocelyn. This is just a random card out of the blue for the heck of it. My God, that is beautiful. I could stare at this for days. Are you kidding me? More wands. The deck is shuffled too. That's not... just gorgeous. Wow, I love the floor. How it's kind of, sinking out into the landscape in the back there. There's that iconic figure that we're going to see in a suit with an apple in front of his face, if people are familiar with that piece of work. We have the 4 colors of the 10th Sephiroth of the Tree of Life. It's just a beautiful depiction. Just gorgeous. My God. Look at, she's made of marble that's cracked, and then she's dressed on top of the marble. The idea of the lack of motion. Really something. Just beautiful. Let's look at the Rider version of that just for the heck of it, because why not? Okay, now you see the idea here and how the difference is really quite beautiful. Let me see if I can line that up so that we can just kind of pop that back and forth, right? So what we have here is the person that's right. They got the world in their hand, and they're right, but they're waiting for this other person to show up. They don't want to do it alone, right? And now here, there's this idea, like this person, they aren't going anywhere. Same thing. They're, I don't know if you call it the state of waiting, but there's definitely a state of not going. And looking out with that kind of want. Now this almost looks like there's another person entering in a state of like shame, but that's just intuitive interpretation. I don't know. It has nothing to do with the. I wonder what the intent was of the artist, if they were trying to do a Rider system type interpretation or not. It doesn't seem that way. So that's your random card for the day. Okay, so let's look at first Simran, best friend, and you. Okay. So yeah, you're November. You guys are actually very close. What would be my next step? All right. Let's just throw a couple cards, actually. Why not? Let's just... Again, I hit 200 subscribers. Isn't it funny? Like, sometimes you're so poor that like $1 is a lot of money. Like, I just started my channel, and so to me 200 subscribers is like everything. When I hit 20,000 in a year, whatever, I'm gonna be looking back at the 200 going, you know, wow, I was so excited over that 200. But I really am. So as a subscriber special, we're gonna have fun and step it up a little bit. So let's see, let me get rid of these, and I'm just going to jump in and throw some cards. Again, this is Tarot of the Holy Light. It's a very interesting deck visually, and the symbolism that's built in is a beautiful amalgamation of tarot, alchemy, and the Hermetic arts kind of combined in a very interesting and artistic way. So let's do this. Let me change that because that's going to confuse even me. Okay. Aren't we all, right? What's that song that just popped in my head? Otis Redding? I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to sing it, but how's the chorus go? Change gonna come? I have to find the lyrics. I can't play it on here because that'll get, you know, copyright, whatnot, and who's it's. But although I don't even care, I don't monetize the channel, but I don't want it to get pulled down. But yeah. I was born by a river in a little tent. Can't remember the rest of the words, so sorry. But I'll find the lyrics and I'll pop them up because it's relevant to what you're saying here. It's like I think we're all waiting for better days. It's, you know, there's this energy of like, I don't know about you, I don't know about anybody here, but like a lack of trust in the universe right now. It's like, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, when are we just going to have a freaking meteor hit the planet and just, you know, because, right, it seems like there's this sort of like tension, but only on a global level. On an individual level, when we kind of reset our energy, we don't give in to that. You know, it's important that we can navigate the space, kind of like the Two of Swords when it's applied properly. We can navigate the space by all right, taking in what is occurring, but not identifying with it and just living our lives, right? And outside of that global anxiety. Okay. Okay, sure. Wow. Change gonna come. Whoa, yes it will. That's the chorus, yeah. So change is gonna come. But really, and we'll talk to when we get around to your reading. We'll talk about that. Sarita, hey, absolutely, yeah. Let me get you on there. Okay, great. So Simran, let's take a look at what we're doing here. Best friend, yeah. I'm going to throw a couple cards and then look at one in the middle. The first one's going to be you, and what's your real motivation here? What is it you actually want? Then we're going to put down them, and what is their motivation with respect to you? What is the lens that they see you through? And then the third card, right in the middle, is going to be essentially what is the action that should be taken? And that's going to reveal to us if it's a good connection or a bad one. And if it's good, what should you do for that to happen? And if it's bad, what should you do to avoid it, right? So that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be 3 quick cards. And we'll see what we can see. Let us begin. So the first card is going to be you and the circumstance of where you're coming from with respect to this person. What is your motivation? What is your desire here? Like the thing that you're actually striving for. the Four of Disc. You see in them the anchor. You see in them stability, like the thing that you can hang your emotional hat on. You're very welcome, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to you yesterday. I remember a couple of people popped in very close to the end, and I started losing it. The Four of Pentacles is this card of stability, right? A chair, you could have a stool with 3 spokes, but it's not a stable stool. You give it 4 and you've got a stable stool. A square, a cube, is stable and touches the surface 100% because it's got the 4 spokes and it can't move, right? The 4 points of a cube. There's a sort of just intrinsic idea of there being stability there. 4 is also a very holy number with respect to the 4 directions, the seasons, the wheel. There's all the, these, the Holy Trinity, and then the creation. Every religion has its Trinity, doesn't it? Right? And then the 4th being us. So the 4, though, in respect to your question here and your friend, you are coming from this place of seeing them as like a codependent emotional place to anchor. You find comfort in them, in their confidence, in their gentleness. Now, let's look at them. Okay. And again, for those who are just entering the stream, I don't typically read with reverse meanings, and so if I pull a card and it's upside down, I'm just going to turn it over and don't let it stress you. Okay. They are that. You want that. They are that. Let me just be clear. And now there's more to it, but you want, you desire, you seek their stability. They are that. It's not, and what I mean by that is that it's not like you're trying to seek something that doesn't exist. That's the first thing. It's important that it's not like you're imagining that they're going to provide this. They actually do. However, they also provide it to others. Now, this doesn't mean that they're cheating, or this doesn't mean that they're not loyal to you. They are. The king loves all of his subjects. You're just one of the subjects. Now, the king also has favorites. The king has a consort. And so there's all these dynamics. Now, what does that mean? Like, what am I talking about? Basically, what we're referring to is like, he sees you as somebody who is open to receiving what he's giving. All right? This king sees this person as somebody that needs their stability, and they're willing to give it to you. But that doesn't mean that it's exclusively you. There's this energy about them that they kind of feel like they are that for others as well, and that's affecting the intimacy. It's affecting the connection. Now I'm going to put out the 3rd card, and that's going to kind of talk about, it's sort of also an action card, like what should be done. And again, it could reveal to us some insight in respect to what is the nature of the connection, and is it good or bad, or if it is good, what should be done, type of thing. So it's very, very typically an action card. It's very typically a card of of something getting done, something actually happening. And it's the King of Cups. Now, we have 2 different kind of kings here, right? We have the disc, or the pentacle, or the earth. Hard instead of soft. Heavy instead of light. Dry instead of wet, right? Decidedly feminine energy as opposed to masculine. That's why he's a giver. Woman bestows, not man. Woman creates. not man. Now we have the King of Cup as the advice, the trajectory, the direction the sign's pointing is the King of Cup, which is also decidedly female. Subhadra, hello. Thank you for popping in on the stream. So, the difference here is this shift in energy from the, and it's still decidedly female. We have the body being the center, to the heart being the center. Another way of putting that is we move from root chakra and our thoughts being ruled by our base desire to our heart chakra, which is being ruled by our soul's desire. The heart is the manifestation of the soul, right? Absolutely. No problem. Let me put your name on the list here. So, and now this energy shifting is not automatic. It requires a couple of things to happen here. One of those things is the enrollment of the other, meaning that you need to, if they're open to at least the conversation, make that aware that work is being done here. And what I mean by that is that you change the way that you communicate. And by doing so, it's going to alter the way that they perceive you and the way that they communicate back. And then now you can actually speak from a different perspective and kind of get to the heart of where are they really? And is there a possibility or an opportunity for you to benefit from them and then benefit from you at a proper ratio to the degree that there is a healthy relationship? And the answer here is yes. I don't think it's an accident. And any other readers in the room, I encourage you to chime in on this, that this is swimming toward this, right? And so it seems like you are coming from a state of needy, which attracted you to originally, right? He had what you needed and he was willing to give you that. And so there's a good union there. But it's now causing a kind of like the fact that you being in that state is changing their perspective, and it puts you on a different lit. You're getting friend zoned. And so, but this is talking about swimming toward here, and now, so the advantage of that, the thing that you can benefit from because of that, is shifting from that root into the heart, is that you're putting out kind of real, and you're not being needy anymore. You're almost saying, okay, well, you give me your disc, I'll give you my cup. And so it's a more even exchange, like I talked about, as opposed to it being give and take. It's now, all right, you give, I give, and there can be this connection, and that will even subconsciously alter your the way you're perceived by them, and change your shape in their mind. You can maybe get out of that place that you're in as far as what they're seeing. But it does require participation on both sides. And that's just communication. So what I would say is, and this is my final advice here, it's okay to talk and to express yourself. The question is, what language are you using? Are you using the language of the genitals or the language of the heart? Are you using the language of the stomach or the language of the mind? Want is important, but it's also important when you're communicating that you leave the want out of it. You're so welcome. To leaving the want out of it during the communication. The want should be the drive for the why you want to communicate to begin with, but it can't be the language used during that communication. Let that want give you the drive to talk to them but use your heart to say the words. Okay, does that make sense? And if we're able to do that, then there's an advantage that comes with that, which is truth, and that we attract the side of them that is real, as opposed to being reactive to what they think you need, which totally changes their opinion of who you are. You're a patient. You're somebody. You're something to be fixed, not something to allow to mix with, to unionize, to become one with. Okay. And so that said, all I ask of anybody who joins my streams, if you find any value in anything I'm doing here, please give the video a like, and please consider a comment. It's the fact that anyone here is looking at me right now or listening to anything I have to say is because I came up in the feed, right? Or you searched and I came up in the results. And the reason I came up is because the robot decided to do that. And the robot reads the comments. So that matter. It really does matter a lot. It makes a big difference. And obviously, a donation is greatly appreciated. If you're not able, I understand. And, it's my discretion whether or not I want to do a full reading and not charge for it. Especially people who've been in the stream multiple times and that I've talked to. Usually I'm happy to do that, right? Otherwise, the fees are up. Actually, they're here. I don't know how to point to it from that camera. There you go. Right there. And so... and this includes private, so we don't have to do it on the stream here. You're so welcome, Simran. And if you want to delve into that any further, again, for $5, we can do a past, present, future, or a mind, body, soul is probably more accurate. A mind, body, soul reading, which would be like a 15 card. It's pretty deep kind of reading. Yeah, your random card. What was it? The Fool. No, it wasn't. It was a Seven of Wand. That was your random card, the Seven of Wand. You're taking the high ground. That was your random card, yeah. Okay, so Sarita, Subhadra, Jocelyn is next. Okay, and so I just need a couple of minutes to sort of refresh, heat up my drink here, and I'll be right back. And so, Jocelyn, you're the next reading. And then Sarita, and then Subhadra. Okay. And yeah, just to, I don't know if I have that one still up. I don't. Okay. So that was the Seven of Wand. There you go. That was your random card. Okay, Simran. Thank you so much. Bless you. Bless you for saying that. So yeah, I just need a moment to freshen up my drink, and then I will continue with Jocelyn. In the meantime, I'm going to put up the wheel, actually, yeah, sure, Sajal, I will. And actually, you'll be my last, because it is getting late, so you'll be my last reading tonight. And now I'm going to close the list. Because I don't want to rush through readings. I hate doing that, and I won't. And so I want to take my time with you guys, and so you'll be last, Sajal. And thank you for joining the stream. I really appreciate that. I'll be back in a couple minutes, and then we'll continue with the chat. All right, so I'll see you guys in a bit. Let's pop on a microphone. That might help. Okay. Sorry, guys. Alrighty. So we're going to continue. Just want to make sure everybody is still in the room. So in order, we have Jocelyn is next, and then Sarita, Subhadra, and Sejal. So Jocelyn, if you're still in the room, please just give me a hi, a thumbs up, or some indication that you're here, and then we'll go ahead. Otherwise, Sarita, you'll be next. And how it works here, if you're called on and you've jumped to another stream or you've left and you'll be back, I don't kick you off the list. I just take your name and it goes on the back, okay? And so we can hopefully get to you if you happen to pop back in on the stream. And if I am not able to get to you this evening for whatever reason, I will honor the free reading. And so simply put your birthday in the comments of this video, and I will give you your reading in the comments. If you go to prior videos, you'll see I honor that. Okay, so we can do that as well. So Jocelyn, you're next. If you don't answer at this point, I'll assume you're not here, and we'll move on to Sarita. And it's looking like that's the case. And so I'm just going to put her on the end there. And Sarita, you are up. So I'm going to swap that out. Okay. Alrighty. So, Sarita, if you're in the room, just give me a hello. A thumb up, some indication that you're here. Oh, you are here. Okay, great. So Jocelyn is here. Okay, good. So let's swap it back. Okay. Great. Okay. And Sarita as well, just let me know if you're still here so that when I'm complete with Jocelyn, we can move forward. Okay. Great. Perfect. Awesome. Alrighty, so that said, let's begin. Actually, I might switch decks. I've been using Holy Light for most of the evening, and I think I'm going to switch. Yeah. This is the Tarot of the Abyss. I love this deck, and I look for any excuse to use it. Okay. So I'm just going to shuffle in the meantime, and I know that you had mentioned something out there. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, general love reading. Or is there anyone coming toward me long term? Okay, sure, let's take a look. I'm going to look at 2 cards first and then a third. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to look at is your general circumstance right now with respect to that, meaning that there's several factors when it comes to connections. And some of it has to do with what you're putting out and what it is you're actually looking for. Those two things can sometimes be different. And that right away can give us some insight into maybe some of the things that are causing you to slow down or to attract the wrong thing, and can give us a lot of guidance on the right direction to go. Okay, so let's take a look at that. These two. So the first card that we're going to look at is where you're coming from. Okay. Now what we have is the 3 of Wands, very similar to the Two of Wands, but a slightly different caveat, right? And so let's look at that. The Two of Wands we saw before, because I was picking random cards from that other deck, and we recognize the Two of Wands is like this idea of waiting, right? Now the Three is, let's just pop that up here, okay? Is a very similar idea, but from a slightly different perspective, meaning that the Two is looking for adventure. It's not a love card per se. It's a card of connection, but it's more of a wanderlust and a desire to share that. However, the Three is a different circumstance here. The Three refers to like real work being done. Sometimes it even refers to connections related to commerce. Like there's these three people, and it doesn't always mean three, but it's more than one, are going to have a journey together. It's more than just, oh, well, let's see the world, and this is like, just like actually a goal, and there's some work that's kind of been laid out that they're going to participate in once they're together. Okay, so it's more than just waiting. Very oftentimes people will interpret this card as coming instead of going, and so it's rather than a card of somebody joining on the journey, it's a card of someone returning. But I don't get that feeling here. I don't get this being waiting for something to come back. I think this is something about waiting to create something with someone, which is a different circumstance. The second card, though, that we're going to look at here is more of the idea of what is the environment that you're in, right? So if the first one is where you are mentally and emotionally and how you're interfacing with that, what this is the place that you're doing that interfacing, the place that you're doing that waiting and wanting. So another way that this can be looked at is this is the resources that are available for you to take. This is what's available for you to use. This is interesting here. The Nine of Pentacles is a very cool card and it's the period of time that we're in right now. We're in the period of the Nine of Pentacles, and so if you've been in my stream, yeah, the Nine of Pentacles refers to the rest that comes from the release of the anxiety of the imposition. There was something that had to be done, and you did it. You showed up. You did it correctly. You did it right. You did it with pride. And that can mean an event, a thing, or that can mean in general that having that gives you the reward. Like you see here, she's in her garden with her bird, and this is a similar interpretation. She's older. She's been through stuff. And because of being through that stuff, it puts her in a position. Each one of these pentacles is a different circumstance that she was able to turn into strength. So what this means with respect to these two cards together is the idea that this is the source of this strength. I'm trying to find the proper words to make sure that I'm getting the point across, because it's sort of a complex idea. It's kind of like the idea of the waiting to create has led to this circumstance of you now finally, and this is good news, being in a stable enough position that you're not needing. Now, you're not there yet, but the fact is that is the environment that you're in. The environment that you're in is conducive to that happening, not only in the period of time that we're in right now. Not to put urgency on it, but that's just the next couple of days. We're going to move into the Ten of Pentacles here soon. but also with respect to the environment that you're in love, in connections, in that the act of not waiting but seeking. Now, it's important to realize too that there is this kind of like there's a consideration that here that is, it's not necessarily prudent to take anybody that comes up to that staff and says, "Oh, I can take this journey with you," right? You know, it's somebody that there has to be an appropriate connection with. And now, how do you determine who that is? Well, it's really important that you put out the real you. Okay? I get that. That's why you're seeking, right? I mean, you know. Now, here's the part about doing it by yourself. And this is also the lesson in the Hermit here. The idea is the sun shines on everything, and we take everything, and it's hard to tell the difference between right and wrong. Now, that includes also like a connection with a person. Like you see a person and you think to yourself, are they the one? And it's hard to see the truth with the eyes because you see both. You see everything, and it's difficult to discern the difference between what's true and what's false. The Hermit gives us the lesson that in the darkness, we're forced to look with something other than our eyes because it's too dark to use our eyes. And so we're forced to use something else. And what do we use? Our inner light. And that inner light shines on just the truth. Well, yeah. Content is peaceful for a certain degree, but content can also be dangerous because it's not good enough to be happy, but bad enough to do anything about. And so we kind of stay in that place. The goal here of this interaction between you and I right now in this time is to find the thing that needs to be changed so that we are that motion happens again, so that we break that cycle, and that includes the healing that needs to happen first. You know, one of the reasons that you might be waiting is because ultimately at the end of the day you're kind of not ready. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to take a long time to get ready. That's not at all what that means. But what it does mean is that there's some neat work that needs to be done before you can take that step. And so, regardless of what you put out and what you receive back in respect to love, the fact of the state that you're in right now is going to change the way that you're viewed and the way they view the relationship. Like, you're not really... And so it's what I would say is that there may be some work that needs to be done first here before you go seeking, because frankly the odds of you mathematically bumping into a person that's going to fulfill what you need spiritually, which is really the thing that's lacking the most right now, super rare, right? Without that being the goal, and you coming from a place of not strength because you've been banged around so much that you have thick skin. That's not strength, but rather coming from a place of knowing that you deserve that love and that you are not the wound. It doesn't mean you forget. And sometimes healing's impossible because the wound's too big. I know. And instead what we can do is to, rather than try to heal what used to be, is to mourn the loss. It's real. And then hopefully be open enough to allow for the creation of something new. And that puts you in a different space. And that because you're in a different space, will begin to attract different things in your life, and those things are going to be more geared toward filling that space instead of the one that you're in right now, which is really not great. So what I would recommend is that you seek guidance spiritually, and once you've found it, start the work. Like, conversation is important, but then there's a point where that needs to stop, and there needs to be the work, and it's hard, but it's quick. Once the work's done right, once you are on the right path toward the answer, as opposed to the ego fooling you into think that you're on the right path, then a lot of that weight falls quickly, and you can begin to reap the reward of this 9, instead of it being the anxiety and the loss. I'm not a doctor, but I know people, and for almost 40 years I've been helping people to find themselves. That's what I do. That's all I do, if you're open to it. And once you have that glimpse, we can now say what is the correct course of action here, and find local resources of professionals or spiritual advisors locally that are accessible to you on a more intimate level than what we can do here publicly. Privately, the readings are very different, and it's a totally different conversation because it's not public. I speak differently, and it's a different conversation. But that said, if you're open to that, or you're interested in that, just give me a call or a text at that number, or you can email me at that Gmail if it's easier, and we can begin the process of finding those resources and discussing the steps that need to be taken for you to begin to move into a place that you're open to receiving the love that you deserve, and that you're not identifying with the wound, but with the new you that is waiting to emerge. Okay. I really, really hope that was insightful. I try to get out of my own way to just channel what needs to be spoken, and I hope I'm able to do that. It's been an emotional couple of days, personally, as well as with a lot of the readings, and so it's heavy, but for what it's worth, you're not alone, and I know what you're feeling. The loss is real. Nobody can say anything to you, but there are ways to help navigate that, and I promise you. And you will be lighter, and you will be joyful and open to receiving love. Okay, so I'll just put that out there. That said, all I ever ask of anyone I've ever done anything for on the stream here is that you like the video. If we did make a connection, and you consider a comment. Comments can mean a lot. It doesn't have to be anything personal. Just thank you so much, or I appreciate it, or you stink and you were totally wrong. But it really goes a long way. So it looks like Sarita is up. Great. I hope you do. Any time that we can put someone on a path toward healing, or being open to change, the better, and it means a lot. So Sarita, okay, let's take a look. And I know I'm doing a slightly different format tonight than normal. Normally I do a lot of personal messages using birth cards and, using the Deacon or the Decanate system, and which I'm still open to doing if anyone wants to do that. But instead, just because of just a kind of a different energy that's going on tonight and some positive stuff that's happening, I figured out just, So, government, job, and marriage, and when I will find peace in my life. Okay, wow, that's like 3 readings all in one. So let's pick one of those. Government, job, marriage, and when will I find peace in my life? Wow, okay, well, peace is a choice. Now, that doesn't mean it's as easy as going, I want peace, and then having it. Obviously not. But I will say this. Peace typically comes from recognizing the separation between the thing that you're observing and yourself. Do not identify with the pain of the world. Don't identify with some political party. Don't identify with other people's nonsense. And peace really comes from recognizing that I am separate from that. I'm separate from the environment that I'm in. And I mean, it's clearly more to it than that, but finding peace in your life is that's the path we're all on, right? Thank you, Jocelyn, for stopping in, and thank you for listening. There's two types of knowledge in the world. This is for Sarita. And I think I'm going to focus here on, in general, that there's three specific questions, and however, all three can really be a side effect of how you're approaching them, right? So like your job, your money, you know, the marriage and love, your career, peace in your life. So here's the message. And you'll see here the High Priestess in the Rider-Waite system. You have two bodies of knowledge here. These cards are the same but different, right? And that's not an accident that they look similar. But they're quite different, aren't they? One's a man, one's a woman, one's pointing hands up in this, you know, special kind of like, you know, whatever. She's seated differently and is holding a copy of a holy book. And there's also, incidentally, all kinds of occult secrets all over this, which I won't get into. But the important thing here is the High Priestess is the truth hidden in secret. And the Hierophant, or like mainstream religion, the institution, is lies told openly. And so the High Priestess is essentially the lesson that we need to drown out the din of the world and look at it at a more pure form of knowledge when making decisions and looking at our place in that, right? And so that's what we're looking at in the High Priestess here. I love her interpretation. This is the Terror of the Abyss. The artist is Anna Torian. Great deck. I mean, she's got the keys and she's holding the... It's just everything about it. You know, she did represent the moon. The idea of the doorway. Just all kinds of great stuff here. Don't you wish you can get your hands on those keys? Imagine what doors they could open, right? And, you know, what are those keys? It's kind of also the idea of, like, we know the answer internally, as opposed to in the Hierophant, which is like the religion is, no, here's the answer, and you better believe it, right? And so it's almost a warning against that. It's a warning against just taking the answer from religion, from university, from society, and instead looking into your heart where it's more true. The Eight of Wand. The Eight of Wand is also this card kind of like and the symbolism here is a slightly different, but I'm going to pop it up so you can see what she did here, because it's really cool. There's this idea like of the torrent, and the next card in it is the one that we've seen tonight of the person that's up fighting alone. The 8 refers to like this movement and motion, right? So there's these staffs have been thrown at you, and they're at the end of their journey, right? Like the implication due to the angle is that they're about to land. They're not starting, they're not in the middle, they're about to land. And that's one of the pieces of symbolism here that's relevant. But in her interpretation, we have these like 8 wands on the bottom, the trees growing, moving in the wind, with these geese all flying. Okay. Now, when you consider what we're looking at here, first of all, is this idea of the element of fire, and it's kind of like the drive. It represents the spirit as far as the suits. Fire is spirit. You have mind, body, soul. This would be the soul card. And the 8 is this idea of very dynamic energy. It's kind of like if the 9 is the release, if the 9 is the peace and the rest, the 8 is the work that gets you to that stage. And so when we consider what that means in this respect, what this is that you have to have the drive in your soul. Like, there's going to be moments in your life, it's just nature, where you lack motivation. You're not feeling as energetic that day. You're not feeling as empowered. You have to work through those, knowing that you will get the motivation back. And if you don't, you're going to miss these opportunities. And so it's about saying, okay, well, when I get into these modes where I don't have the motivation, or I'm not feeling like I'm being heard, that doesn't mean you should stop talking. Because the reward in this case is the truth. And now you have to unlock that truth. And how do you do that? Through the application of the 8 here. Another way to look at this card, and this is a great symbolism, is the fact that you're showing up when others don't. And we've seen that person that's fighting, they're by themselves. Because there's battle happened, and everyone agreed to show up for the battle. But then you're alone. But the cool part is that once the battle's over, you will be fine. The fact is you're coming out pretty unscathed. It may not seem that way, like it's coming from everywhere, and there may be a lot of kind of like a lot to handle, a lot of emotional energy going in a lot of directions, and a lot of things being imposed upon you from a lot of different directions. Some of it you're willing to deal with, and some of it you have no choice. And the lesson is that you're gonna be fine. I know it's a lot at once, but the reality is that stop relying on the old way of thinking, and just go with your intuition. Go with what has worked for you before. So, like, guidance with respect to whether it is love or a job. Guidance about the government job. Here's the deal. It doesn't matter what you do. If you sweep a floor and you are being authentic, you'll find pleasure instead of pain. You'll find satisfaction and fulfillment instead of disdain or anger even. So the job will be fulfilling no matter what it is. It's the same thing with love or marriage. When you are able to find that middle ground with yourself, instead of these extremes of trying to be for somebody else, what winds up happening is that you attract the right people in your life. And obviously it's the same as far as finding peace, because that's the goal. That's the product of the work being done properly. Peace is the side effect. Peace should not be the goal you strive for, but rather strive for right thinking and feeling, and then peace will come. So that's general, but that's specific to you as well. Okay. All right, so Dara, if you're still in the room, let me know. Say hey. Same with Sajal. And hello to anybody I missed in the chat tonight. It's getting a little late, and I'm getting a bit tired. So I had to close the list, and I have been kind of focusing on the reading instead of the chat. Well, Sarita, you're welcome. And feel free to pop back in anytime if you want to dig into that further, or I would say certainly it's it would be a disservice to myself to not mention to everybody that I am available for private readings as well. These are not just for streams. Okay, I do private readings for those same prices. I don't charge any more than I would on a live stream in a private reading. Okay, I do more than this, and that is available. But so that's just that. And that said, if you would like to help the channel out, if you found any value in what I'm doing, please at least like the video and consider a comment. Okay. Okay, Sabdara, thanks. I'm glad you're still here. So let's take a look. Let me pop you up here, and we'll go from there. Okay. Okay, and then Sajal, if you're still in the room, let me know, because you're next, and you'll be the final reading of the evening. Okay, so Sabdara, let's see here. Question. Sure, let's take a look. And incidentally, if I missed anybody, let's see. This Sarita, if you're still here. If you're not, then if you're still here, I'm going to pull another random card. This is just a random card from a deck. So there's the Page of Swords. This is for Sarita, not Sabdara. Page of Swords. It's a surrealist deck, so it's just interesting to look at, you know. The message is individual, so I'm not going to interpret it. Okay. All right. So then now, let's continue with Sabdara. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. So let's take a look at this now. This is where you are in the circumstance, or they are in the circumstance, and basically the immediate future. Okay, so this is kind of like a past, present, future, but with respect to where you and where they are. Okay, so now, as far as this boy. The Seven of Swords is a card of not necessarily being honest. Okay? So Shahat is not being 100% honest. And, you know, if you look at this card here, this is the... I'm going to pop it up in the rider system as well, just to give you an idea. It's somebody sneaking away with swords like they're stealing them. There's a level of, like, dishonesty in it. Let me get rid of that wand. Okay, see him sneak it away with the swords? You're one of those swords, but there's others. There's a manipulation going on here. And in the present time, too, there's this idea of, like, them causing strife on purpose in order for them to be there to rescue. It's sort of like there's a level of dishonesty here where they're kind of lying or not being honest about something. And what's happening here is that they're pretending to be the hero that's there to save you, right? And now this is the final card, the Two of Wands. And this is the immediate future of the situation. And the immediate future of this situation is waiting. The image is typically of a person holding up the earth, looking out from a rampart on a castle with two wands. They're holding one and there's another one, and they're waiting for somebody to come and take that so they can join this journey together. And so, well, actually, I might be able to pop it up here. Let's see. And so, all right. See how they're looking out, waiting? And so what I'll say with respect to this individual and what I'm seeing here as far as how they see you and overall their character with respect to the connection is not really in your favor. And there's this idea of a loss and a waiting with respect to that. So I would say the connection doesn't really look like it's positive for you and him, unless you're willing to look past the lies. But that's not healthy, and it's not fair, and you deserve honesty, okay? So that's that. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be something else to you, right? For instance, what I mean is some people make good friends but bad mates, like a lover. Some people make good lovers but bad friends. Some people are bad at both, right? And so it depends. And so you really have to kind of maybe examine the nature of the relationship to begin with, because in love, not good. But that doesn't mean that you can't have, you know, some type of insight with each other that would maybe help you, okay? Sajal, if you're here, let me know. If you're still in the room, then I can, we will complete your reading. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And if you'd like to pop in on another stream as well, we can even look into that situation further, or look at maybe some different questions, all right, related to, is there a different direction you should go, or a different way to approach the situation that maybe will help you to find growth. You know, loss is loss, and we can't stop that, but what we can do is to try to allow some of that energy to transform into growth. And that loss can be something as small as a little bruise to our ego because we're embarrassed about somebody and our engagement with them, all the way up to something major. But the fact is that losses are going to happen in our lives, small, large, and otherwise, and it's incumbent upon us for our own spiritual growth to weather it and to navigate it properly and to do the correct work so that we avoid suffering, or at the very least turn that suffering into something positive, growth. If we must destroy our ego, the best we can do is to, on the other side of that, reform as something stronger, right? So thank you so much for your trust in me. It does not look like Sajal is still in the room. I'll give you a little bit of time here to respond. If you don't respond, then I'm going to complete the evening. Anybody who joined the stream toward the end here that I'm not able to get to, I do the free readings as well in the comments. So if you just put your birthday in the comments, I will respond within 24 hours with your free reading. Okay? And that'll include your birth card that you can take that information. It does not change throughout your life. The card stays with you. It's like your sun sign. And so I'll provide that as well as your free reading if you simply in the comments put your birthday. Okay. Otherwise, I had a great stream. I had a lot of fun. And to all the people that are still here, I encourage you to go back and watch the beginning of the stream. I talked about a lot of very good information before I began doing the readings that I believe will be insightful. And so give that a look, okay? Otherwise, thank you so much to everybody who joined. And again, if I wasn't able to get to you for whatever reason, just simply comment on this video with your birthday, and I will provide you with your birth card and a free reading in the comments. Okay? So thank you so much to everyone who joined tonight. I put 4 videos up every day. They're already on the channel for today, for the 10th of September. And I stream once a day as well. So I look forward to seeing everybody soon, and have a great night.